Hello class, sorry I can't be here today. You're going to take some notes. You need to use this paper to take notes on. Just like the other note sheets, we'll be filling in the blanks and you'll be labeling some stuff. Okay, today what we're going to look at is, you probably don't know that Montana has a very rich and diverse mining history. A lot of mining has happened in the state of Montana, and you're going to find out about that today, some of that history, and also you will take a look at how we get minerals out of the ground, some of the basic ways that we do that. So today, very simply, we're going to start with the mining that happened in Butte. Butte was a very busy place. It used to be this incredibly huge mining town. In 1877, they started mining gold and silver, but that quickly ran out. And also, we started to use electricity. And when we started to use electricity, that increased the demand for copper. And that copper was used to make the wires to transmit that electricity. And so in Butte, the town exploded in size. All these people came there to work and produce all of this copper, get it out of the ground so that we could use it for electricity. At one point, Butte was producing 40% of the world's copper for the entire planet, so that's pretty impressive. And in order to do that, the population exploded. There were 100,000 people living in Butte at that time. Houses were very close together. People were doing a lot of mining in a variety of different ways, and also because of that, all of the people who owned the mining claims, they didn't live in they didn't live in Butte, because it was kind of this dirty, rowdy town, and so they lived in Helena. And if you've ever been to Helena, around the Capitol building, there's all those old mansions, and those are the mansions of the millionaires. There used to be more millionaires per capita than anywhere in the United States at that particular point in time. And because of that, and all of the minerals that were being taken out of Butte, 21.5 billion tons of copper, Butte was referred to as the richest hill on earth. The mining was done by digging an incredible amount of underground tunnels, some as deep as a mile underground, but they dug 10,000 miles of underground tunnels. And they operated the Berkeley pit, which was the largest machine-operated open pit mine in the United States, if not the world at the time. It's big enough that you could put the Space Needle from Seattle in it, and it would actually be under the water that has filled up the pit since they've quit mining there. So it's a really, really deep open pit mine. They had all these pumps at the bottom to pump water out so they could keep digging down. Anyway, they took the ore out there, they put it on rail cars, and they shipped that over to Anaconda. If you've been through Anaconda, you've seen that big smokestack that is still there. That's from a smelter, one of the last smelter stacks. It was the largest brick structure in the United States, tallest brick structure in the United States at that time. Basically what they did was they cooked the ore and then melted out the copper, and then took what they wanted, which was the copper, and got rid of that. And then all of this slag, this big black rock, was left over. They built a golf course on top of it. You can still see some of it if you go through Anaconda piled up there. And that was Butte, okay? Pause it if you need to. The other place that we've done mining is in Libby. Libby was a different deal. They were not mining gold or silver or copper or anything like that. What they mined was a mineral called vermiculite. This is what vermiculite looks like. When you heat it up, it's like an accordion. It pops open. It creates these very different looking features. And then we could use it for a lot of different things. We could add it into poor soil, and that allowed nutrients and oxygen and water to get into the soil and increase the quality of that soil. And also this stuff was put in the attics of homes as insulation. You could just pile it in there, and it kept it warmer and colder. Very useful that way. There was a small problem, and one of the small problems with Libby was this, that this mineral vermiculite was mixed in with asbestos, and asbestos is like tiny fibers of hair, but they're made of glass, and you breathe them into your lungs, and your body can't break it down. It builds up scar tissue, and it continues to do that process over and over again until there's no way to get any air in your lungs anymore. So a lot of people were made sick by this, and they shut down the mine and quit working there, and they had to do all this work to clean up Libby afterwards. It took decades. Okay, so some of the other places in Montana where mining has been done. One of those is in Helena. In 1864, they had a gold rush in this area called Last Chance Gulch in Helena, which is now the downtown area. There's a walking mall there. There's like, I think it's called the Parrot. It's a chocolate shop is there. You can buy candies and stuff. And all that was where they were doing that mining. So that was in 1864. Some of the places we are currently mining in the state of Montana, there's a lot of them. And let me just give you that list. Today we are doing mining in a lot of different places. In the background here is a gold mine, which is in Whitehall. Whitehall is very close to Butte, but they're mining gold there. In Townsend, they're mining lime. If you're thinking, what are they mining lime for? It's not the fruit, but it's actually the material that's used to make concrete. They need lime to do that. In Dillon, they're mining two things. They're mining talc and they're mining garnet. Both of which you've looked at in some of our activities, so you know what we're using that for. Butte, they are still mining copper. And then a place called Nye, they are mining platinum. It's actually the only place in the United States where we can mine platinum. There's nowhere else. It's the United States' only source of platinum. Otherwise, we have to get it from other countries. So pretty cool, all these places. Maybe you didn't know that we were doing this much mining in the state of Montana, but we are. Again, pause it if you need to write this stuff down. This all goes on that map, that Montana map. Okay, so when we get stuff out of the ground, there's two ways it comes out of the ground. And I'm going to get in the way right here. No, I'm not, actually. What I want you to understand is it's like a chocolate chip cookie. And I know when I bring up these cookie analogies, it makes you hungry and makes some of you want a chocolate chip cookie. But what do you really like in the chocolate chip cookies? You like the chocolate. So if you got just the chocolate out of there, you'd have to break it all up and take that chocolate out, okay? And that's what you really want. So you want like a Hershey's bar. So when we get minerals out of the ground, we would prefer to find a Hershey's bar, okay? And that's what a vein deposit is the pure mineral all by itself, not mixed up with anything else, and we can take it out of the ground. The problem is in the United States, we've been mining now for over 150 years, and we've pretty much found all of the vein deposits already, so there really aren't many of those anywhere anymore. What we're mostly mining is what's called an ore deposit, and that's your chocolate chip cookie. So you want the chocolate out of it, but you have to break up and process it to get all of that chocolate chip out and all the other stuff that you don't want. And so that's what we call ore. And some of the ore deposits, like in that Whitehall mine that we looked at in the previous slide, the amount of mineral in it is about 0.5, half an ounce per ton of rock. So a tiny amount of gold in a lot of rock. But because gold is so valuable, they can spend all the time and energy processing it to get that out. If you found one that was 10%, that'd be really, really good. So anyway, these are the ways that we find minerals and get them out of the ground. Vein, ore deposit. Most common is ore deposit. So how do we get them out of the ground? The first way we get them out of the ground is what's called hard rock mining. This is what you might traditionally think of. It's digging a tunnel down underneath the ground to reach the minerals. The reason why we do that is that the ore is deep underground. If we had to dig a hole down to it, we would have to dig so much rock above it out of the way that you wouldn't be able to make money. So the easiest way to do it then is to dig a deep mine shaft down here, and then off of that they dig these other tunnels out directly to the ore. And then they break up that ore, they bring it back up the mine shaft, and then process it on the surface, get the chocolate chips out of the chocolate chip cookie. So please make sure that you label your diagram with this information, and then you fill in all these information on the blanks, okay? So that's the first way that we do mining. Again, if you need to, pause it so you can write this down. The other type of mining that's commonly done is called surface mining or pit mining or strip mining. In this case, we're just going to call it open pit mining because that's what they did in Butte. Okay? And essentially what you have is a mineral that is close to the surface. Okay? So it is relatively easy to get to. We can take off that surface layer, and then every time we stick a shovel or use a backhoe or whatever it is, we're digging out the ore that we want. Okay? And these are minerals close to the surface. We use heavy equipment to do that. This picture in the background here is the Berkeley Pit in Butte to give you an idea of the size of this pit, okay, and the proximity to the town itself. So these are the two main ways that we get minerals out of the ground. Now, the last thing that we want to look at today before we're done is what do we do with the mining site when we're done, right? Because this is a pretty big change to the landscape. So what's that called and what's that process, and do mining companies have to do anything about that? So this process is called reclamation. And all mining companies today are required to submit a reclamation plan, put aside money, and make sure that they do this after they are done mining. Mining drastically changes the surface of the land in the areas where the mining is done. And because of that, we have to go through this reclamation process where they basically return the land to a usable form afterwards. And so there's a lot of different ways that we do it. If they're doing hard rock mining, so tunnel mining, there's not a lot of surface change except all the waste rock that they bring up to the surface. So usually they cover that up and they plant soil and put soil and plant seeds on it so it looks like a hillside or something like that. They'll cover up the opening to the mine shaft so nobody falls in and hurts themselves. And then pit mining, what they're going to do in this case is they're going to work the area like this, and then when they're all done, they're going to grass seed it, and a lot of times they might let that pit fill in with water and say, hey, it's a pond now, okay? They can't do that in the Berkeley pit because the water is toxic, so that's not really a good reclamation effort. But this is what a mining company has to do when they are done. So you should have this sheet filled out all the way to the bottom here, all these blanks and boxes filled out. That is the end of your notes. You've got an assignment where you're going to learn more about Butte and Libby's mining history now, so have fun.